Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Sonal, from a little Sonal, you have grown to be such a Sonal at the absolutely top of the profession. What was your path-breaking learning process in this? Gurus, different gharanas. How did you shape up yourself to this top?
Some satkarma in my last birth. I was born in a family which, despite being Gandhian, or maybe because of being Gandhian, had that pride of India at their heart.
Okay.
And I got opportunities to learn at home and also at school, which was a Gujarati medium school. I was not put in a convent, thankfully. Then my grandfather, who was governor many times, when he happened to go to Mysore, Bangalore, as a governor, I came under the tutelage of the great gurus, the couple, Professor U.S. Krishna Rao and Srimati Chandrabhaga Devi, his wife. Apart from being wonderful gurus, absolutely, they opened my mind to so many things. What we talk about the aesthetics today, about what dance is, about generosity of spirit, to go and see other dancers, talk to gurus, take their blessings, talk to scholars. That is what I got from them. My Arangetram was held under them in 1961 at Bangalore Raj Bhavan. I was lucky to continue when I used to go back to Bombay to continue my studies, academic studies. And with my guru's consent, I continued my training under Guru Jayalakshmi Alva, the first disciple of Guru Dandayudapani Pillai.
Okay.
And later I went abroad for 2 years. But before that, a very momentous thing happened in my life, which I must share with you.
Sure.
I performed my Arangetram and I was studying in Bombay. I did my BA from Elphinstone College with German Literature Honours in 1963. And then, as usual in such families, the family council meets to decide and to advise.
What you should do.
Exactly. So my elder sister had opted for marriage straight after her BA and was happily married. And among the many options to do law or to continue with German, I was getting a scholarship to go to Germany also, or to get into the administrative service or foreign service. My father said, "You'll be flying India's flag." My mother, of course, that such great families, I won't name them, had already been sending proposals. And at the end of which, I only said that no, no, no. And my grandfather said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "I want to dance." They said, "You're dancing. You're dancing." Since Arangetram I had been performing also. And you can do this and that. Ye bhi kar lo, ye bhi kar lo. So in Gujarati I said, no, I only want to dance. And that was the breaking point where they lost their patience with me. There was a big storm in the house. Really, it was quite nasty, because dancing as a hobby was okay, but dancing as a profession or only as a dance, it was not even a profession. I mean, I wouldn't have considered it my profession. I never have. But only dancing was a big no-no. That kind of nach.
Yeah, that aura is.
And so there was a lot of conflict. And after 2-3 days, I've written it somewhere in my diary, the exact date. When I just collected my scholarship money from the bank, German scholarship money from the bank, went straight to the Victoria Terminus station, bought my railway ticket to Bangalore, which used to go via Pune then in 63. The broad gauge to Pune, meter gauge to Bangalore.
Oh.
Went home, and the next day I just tied up my scouts and guides. I had a little hold all and a little peti, and called my Bhimaji, our household servant who had brought me up literally from my birth.
Okay.
And everybody had gone to the meetings and office, and mummy was also at a meeting, grandfather was at a meeting, my father was in his office. We walked up to Teen Batti. I took a bus to, he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Shh, don't tell anyone." I took a bus to Victoria Terminus. I sat on the train. I changed train at Pune at night. I arrived in Bangalore in a little rickshaw with my two little things. I arrived in Sheshadripuram at my guru's house. There was a big lock on it. It was about 8 o'clock in the night. They'd gone to see a movie.
What did you do?
I sat, first the
You just
peti, then
sat.
the hold all, and I sat. And when they came back, they saw a figure, and of course, they sent a telegram to my family because they didn't know where I was. But that was the day, Utpalda, I ran away, and then I never went back home to live. So it was a turning point. And when people ask me, which you haven't asked yet, but a lot of people ask me, how could you do that? Such a big decision. I've always maintained that there has to be a jwala. There has to be a flame within. There has to be
Flame in the stomach.
that gut, it really goes duck, 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 duck in my case. And I have to follow it. Whenever I followed that, I have come out right. Although I have faced a lot of initial hurdles. And when I have not followed it, I've been wrong. So that's how, then I went abroad. I came here to dance in Delhi. I met my first husband here. Then I went to Odisha to meet his parents, and my father took me there. That's how my father-in-law took me to meet Guru Kelucharan Mahapatra, and literally ordered him and said, "Kelu, e hochi mor bau Sonal. Tume taku nacha sikhaibo."
As simple as that.
As simple. And of course, the family was a little bit, they were very supportive.
Very supportive.
And that's how I started my Odissi in 65. I was very fortunate in that my father-in-law, Dr. Sonal Mansingh, a very famous poet and educationist, in that sense became my first guru for Odissi, because he took a lot of interest in what I was learning. And when he heard that I was continuing with Bhangi Chaha, that very simple champu, and little this and little that, he summoned Kelu Babu, and he said, "Look, she's a married woman. I mean, come on, you can't teach her Lalita Labangalata, which you teach to do some other things." And we selected the last Ashtapadi, Kuru Yadunandana. And he explained the import to Guruji, and I still remember we were seated on the floor, Bappa was in the chair, and Guruji was sort of, like a newly married woman squirming, and we went all pink. And he said, "But I've never done this and I don't understand." He said, "I'll explain to you, don't worry, but I want you to do this." So then, this was after I'd returned from abroad, and I used to spend almost 6-7 months in Odisha. And so we went to Konark, where we took a lot of pictures, photographs. Guruji made some sketches, and from there we went to Jagannath Puri. And I had been asking Bappa what was the aesthetics of Odissi. And he said, "I don't understand all this. I'll take you to a person who will match your question."
Okay.
So this was on a second trip that he took me to Jivanpani. And when we knocked at his, he was with the education service, living in Puri then. Unannounced, we went to his house in the evening, and that's how he put me in touch with Jivanda, who later became my guru, mentor, guide, philosopher, friend. With Guruji, I learned for about 5 years, because in between I had 2-year break, and he gave me a wonderful foundation.
Okay.
And I learned my Odissi Margam, let's say. But even at that time, I remember that I used to prompt Guruji with Bappa's active help that, come on, let's do something more. So Guru Yadunandana came about, and this that Pallavi in Rag Bhageshri, Panchatal Pallavi.
Okay.
Where I said to you, Bharatanatyam has so many variations of tala, laya vinyasa. And in Odissi it used to be very simple. Just, you know, sticking to the ekatali, or at the most the attatala, that is artali. There is one Pallavi in Kalyani at that time. And he somehow, you know, it didn't happen the way we do it in Bharatanatyam, but at least all the 5 jatis were used in one Pallavi. So like that he created some special items, Pasachadi de Mujibi, Pulatoli, He Banamali, Jay Banamali, which a lot of dancers do. So about half a dozen or 10 items were specially created for me during those years. In 1968, for the first time, I took Odissi to Madras. It was called Madras then.
Okay.
And including the Music Academy, we had 8 performances,
Okay.
all at very prestigious venues. The first one was a lecture demonstration at the Museum Theatre. And Rukmani Devi, M.S. Subbalakshmi, her husband Sadashivanji, Guru Ramaya Pillai, Dr. V. Raghavan,
Great names.
all of them were there. And I remember getting butterflies in my stomach when I, you know, when I was told that all of them are there, and rushing to the bathroom 2-3 times. So Guruji said, "What are you worried about? I'm there." He was playing the Pakhwaj.
Pakhwaj.
So that was the time when I explained the technique of Odissi, what Odissi was, including the bit of history. But the charis, the gatis, the utplavanas, the brahmaris, the vishesha of Odissi, and then I danced. So it was a good 2.5 hour lecture demonstration come performance, at the end of which Rukmani Devi, and unfortunately, you know, we have no recordings in those days. It was not known to do recording of every program and all that. All we have is, but people still remember. Nandini Ramani, my friend,
Yes,
Dr.
yes.
V. Raghavan's daughter, she was also there. And she also remembers Rukmani Devi making a speech at the end and saying that today we have seen something marvelous. Odissi is as classical, if not more, as Bharatanatyam. That, and these were the words which were very rare those days, coming from Rukmani Devi. And Dr. V. Raghavan had announced Odissi to be a tribal dance
Oh my
from
God.
Odisha.
Oh my
I'd
God.
seen 1 or 2 items, you know, from some others who had learned before me a little bit. So I really feel very happy that in the South, in Madras especially, even today, the older generation remembers that Sonal ji brought Odissi to us and opened the doors. So 72, around 72, it was known that I had separated from my first husband. We had separated, and Guruji took a great objection to that and left me. So Jiban at that time took over, and he said, "Look, Sonal, it may be a blessing in disguise, in the sense God gives you the opportunity to grow. So now, come on, let's do something." And that is how the expanse and the exploration of the gems of Odissi, both in terms of form and in terms of content, in terms of music and in terms of presentation and costume, started happening. So I have a great debt to Jibanda. Apart from that, I learned Abhinaya, 6-7 padams from Gauri Amma.
Oh.
At that time, she was quite frail. That was 69 in Madras. And she had lost one eye.
Oh.
So we used to bring her in a taxi and make us sit on a, and she would have half a idli, half a little thing, tumbler of coffee. And and the minute she was asked in Tamil that, "Gauri Amma, are you very tired? Are you feeling okay?" And she would sit up straight, like saying, "Ajao." And she would start singing a padam, and she would start doing her abhinaya seated. It was magic. And I'm very, very fortunate. I was one of the last few
Must
who
be.
learned from her.
She died soon after that.
Yes. Then I also had occasion to go through the Natty Shastra, especially with reference to Karanas, with Dr. T.N. Ramachandran, a great Natty Shastra scholar who had helped Padma also.
Okay.
And my special interest was, because you see, Karanas as they are depicted in the sculpture are immobile, they're static. Whereas Karana actually is a movement,
True.
a stance.
This is Padma's
There's
point.
a chari.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So Padma and I, whoever has studied it, we know what it is.
Yeah.
But the point is, my point was different from Padma's. My point has been, it is not necessarily in what we call Bharatanatyam today that you can find so many of these gestures, postures, and what Natty Shastra describes as the movement of each Karana.
Ah, okay.
Some are in Odissi, some are in Kuchipudi. That's why I went to learn Kuchipudi from Guru Vempati Chinnasatyam, because geographically they are contiguous areas.
Yes, yes.
And also dance style wise, you can see that there are family resemblances.
True.
And a lot of that became very clear to me. So Dr. T.N. Ramachandran helped me a lot. He was my guru. And as I have gone forward, I think you can be my guru, they can be my guru, everybody is my guru, because everybody has something to offer if I'm open.
Very Catholic approach, I must say.
No, it is the real approach. It's a real Indian approach. It's our old traditional approach. Like Lord Dattatreya had 24 gurus, among whom was a crow, a dog, a flower. Yes. So everyone has something to offer. So now I'm very happy that I have taken so much rasa from Dr. Lokesh Chandra, from so many people, and it becomes honey. You ask me, how I come to the compositions and choreographies.
Yes, I did.
That is the honey.
I have a question here. Did your knowing Bharatanatyam earlier and knowing it so well helped you to expand your horizons in Odissi when you came to Odissi?
Oh yes.
In which ways?
Oh yes, absolutely, doubtlessly. Because I think Bharatanatyam discipline and the training and the understanding of the body, the kinetics, are very clear. And that helped me in Odissi a lot. Because somewhere at that time, Odissi was beautiful, but it was not understood. What is chauka, how it is made, why chauka, what does it depict?
Gotis, charis and all these.
Yeah, so many things, because each form has an identity, each form has its own logic. And each form is trying to say something. So Bharatanatyam, and in fact I created this work, Dvivarna, 2 colors, where I juxtaposed Odissi and Bharatanatyam. It was not a mixture, it was a juxtaposition. And which really was a challenge, and I am dying to do it again.
Please do that. I think that will be wonderful.
But the problem is that the Bharatanatyam orchestra soon after that sort of disintegrated, in the sense some musicians died, some were too old, they went away to the villages. And I've not been able to assemble such an orchestra now, because in Delhi there's such a dearth of good Carnatic musicians, especially those who will accompany a dancer like me. And then Odissi and Bharatanatyam orchestra sat at 2 places, 2 sides. And the same Alaripu, 4 bars of Alaripu, 4 of Sthai. Immediately Alaripu Sthai. And people saw how each one grew separately, and yet creating a structure. So like that I did Varnam with the Sabhinaya of Odissi. Yes. I did Padam with Ashtapadi, and I did Tilana with Moksha. So your query that whether it helped me, yes, it helped me a lot.
I have another related question. In Odissi, once you went to it, you went the whole hog. And Odissi today is almost Sonal stamped. You moved away from the Jayantika kind of a structuring and you gave it almost a new structure. How did that happen?
I think when you go into exploring something, then this is bound to happen. Because you are not just accepting, you are questioning, you are exploring, you are thinking, you are wanting, and you are creating. So everything happens as a result of it. It's like a spiral, You get into it, and it whirls and it takes you. In terms of
dance, you have been at the top in both Bharatanatyam and Odissi. Is it lonely at the top?
Utpal, I don't know what you call top, because for me top is Kailash, and I've had the good fortune, the great fortune of having danced at the foot of Kailash,
How nice.
the Ashtapath plateau where Tirthankara walked 8 steps. That is the closest you can get to the south face or any face of Kailash.
Okay.
I danced there, and you see, without the grace of God,
How did that happen?
you cannot even lift a foot, Utpal. I'm seated here, I'm talking to you, then next minute I don't know what might happen to me. And that is what I'll come back to your earlier, what is religion? My religion is the realization, the total awareness and the total gratitude each moment of my life, that anything can happen anytime. There is only something there which is protecting, which is helping, and I am only an instrument. That is my religion. So it happened, I went on a pilgrimage with friends, with a group.
But that's a very rare thing.
And
Nobody has done
well,
it.
so Kailash, we do not walk, we do not climb.
No.
We only do parikrama,
Perambulation.
parikrama. So mine is parikrama, Utpalda. Don't put me on the top. And I'm never lonely because I'm always with myself.
Well, having said that, in such a long career, you must be giving away something to your learners,
Yep.
to those who come to get things from you, the youngsters, the people to whom you teach, like Swati Vise, Shantanu Chakravarti, the two Bankim's daughter and others. How do you share knowledge with them in terms of teaching and imparting training? You do a lot of workshops too. How do you treat them?
The formal teaching started with Swati. I was doing workshops. People still remember my workshops at Max Muller Bhavan and all.
Yes.
In early 70s. People remember my contribution to creating a whole cultural body of presentations at IIC. I was called the honorary cultural advisor.
Oh,
And I invited Singhajit Singh and Birju Maharaj and a lot of people. There was a regularity in the presentations, which old people remember. But Swati stood at my door with her mother, and for almost 3 months.
oh,
She bugged me over the telephone. They bugged me by standing at the door. I stopped going out from my front door. I took to going out from the back door. And one day, as I was going out and opened the door, I was ready to go out. The taxi was waiting. They were there. And she had tears in her eyes. And she says, please, please. And I thought to myself, I don't know what, I thought to myself, this kind of a commitment or this kind of a, I remembered suddenly my own.
own days.
Yes. I said, okay, all right. Come tomorrow. And I put impossible conditions before them.
Oh,
She must come at whatever time I call for. She must practice at whatever, how many hours, no complaints, no questions, and they accepted everything. By then she was head girl at Wellams, and then she joined LSR.
okay.
For 1 year, I taught her, really, and she couldn't walk. People were making fun because when your muscles start moving, you walk like a duck. She brought her friends. Can I bring them? They quietly, they will be like little mice, mouse sitting. They want to watch, please, please. I said, okay, in a corner. Then after 1 month, they all came and said, can we also please learn? So that's how it started. And Vasant Sathe, he was
Yeah.
the one. He said, look, dancers always start teaching when their teeth fall off. Now it is a visual art. You should be the role model. Unlike, the musicians who can just sit and teach at any age. So, Sonal, you start teaching. I said, no. This was just at that time when, Swati was bugging me. So, everything happened together.
Okay.
Teaching Swati, Sathe bugging me. So, and toothless dancers, oh my God, that
You
whole
couldn't imagine.
idea was no.
Inconceivable.
And we founded the Institute, Center
ICCT.
for Indian Classical Dances in 1977. And that was the formal teaching career which started. And I'm in a way very happy because A, as you said, you receive and you give back. B, along with being a teacher, you always remain a learner because every student teaches you something different. Every student has a different body, a different mind,
That's
a different attitude,
That's a great humility.
and how you go across to them, how you can communicate. And I'm not teaching 200 people. Mine is a very one-to-one thing, very small. Earlier it used to be just 10 to 12. I didn't take more. Then it grew to 20, then it grew to 25. At one time they became 90, so I just cut them off. But I think it's a give and take there also. And third thing is that giving workshops also, reaching out to large number of people who might not formally learn dance. But I tell people, don't be intimidated by the word classical dance. At Sandhya School in Gwalior, all those turbaned 600 boys, and talking about dance, and I said, aha, come. Who plays cricket? Who plays hockey? Who plays basketball and all that? So I said, don't worry, I won't make you dance.
They mellowed.
And I just showed them that the way they stanced their forward drive, and if I removed the bat and gave them bow and arrow in hand, what would that be? And they said, Ram. And I said, how would the mid-wicket confabulation between the two batsmen happen, during an over is
Change.
bowler change. And they usually come and stand with the, leaning on the bat and cross their feet, if you see.
Yeah.
So I said, remove the bat, give them a flute. They said, Krishna, Krishna. So I said, look, what is the difference? You are all dancers. So sports and dance, acrobatics and dance, athletics and dance, they are not different. Dance only makes it more beautiful, more aesthetic, more meaningful.
Okay.
So like that I went with hockey, that dribbling and this and that and all. So I dribbled. We have all these beautiful steps, movements, the charis, the katis and all. And then the volleyball,
And
how
you
you throw the
integrated them.
utplavanas and the all that. So what I'm saying is workshops or lectures, lecture demonstrations to communicate to normal, ordinary people of all ages. Baba, everyone is a dancer. Nature is dancing. Look at the trees, look at the creepers, look at the birds, look at the animals. It's only the stupid man now, human being, who has lost his roots, the moorings. You become stiff. You become so, you wear a mask. Dance. Your breathing is rhythm. Chaturasra. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. When it goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, they say you are in agitation. When it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, you have low blood pressure and you are in bed.
So all Tisram and Chaturasra are all
Yeah,
explained.
so everything is in your body, everything is given to you. Let us go back to it also, to be vibrant, to be healthy, to be beautiful.
Okay.
And that is what dance is, no?
No, but then that brings me to the other point. What is your general advice to the people who want to take up dance as a career? Because they have so many distractions, they have so many other options. How do you guide them? How do you tell them what to do?
Utpal, this is a very, very relevant question for today. You're right. Now, more and more the younger generation is asking, what is in it for me? At the end of the tunnel, do I see a fat check? No,
That's the point.
That's the point. And all your reality shows on the television, for example,
True.
they are reinforcing this whole idea. Whereas what I say is that everybody can't become a dancer overnight.
No.
That too a starred dancer. 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 5 star.
That's a good idea.
But everybody can become a dancer, a dance lover, a dance teacher, a dance aesthete, a dance advisor. There's a whole area which is untouched, unexplored. And everybody, why look only at the stage, the, Rangamanch? Why not look at the society as the stage? Talk about it. Make people aware of it in your family, in your neighborhood. See, you don't have to go to a gym and buy shoes worth 2,000 rupees and trousers and all that, 10,000 rupees. You have your own fingers. You are creating beautiful things. You don't need anything. You are saying, kya kar rahe ho? The way somebody is sitting, the way, it's all dance. Make people aware of that. So all I'm saying is that utilize the training in dance to spread the good word, to make people aware that this alone is not enough in life. The real riches are here, given to you by nature, bountiful nature. Realize that. And come to the real dance of life. So what yoga is teaching is only that, the proper breathing. That is our Chaturasya Jati, Sarva Lagu we call it.
Okay.
So your heartbeats go pump, 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 pump. They say, feel your heartbeats. Any dancer, you look at them, 10 minutes of your dance, and you are sweating and you're at the top of the world, you can fly. It is that kind of a feeling you get.
Sonal, your choice of themes have been mind-boggling. You have even come over to Tantric cult. How did it happen when you did Shunna Mahari?
I mentioned to Jivanda this Jivatma Paramatma problem with me, and also the Shaktipat. And I was very disturbed with this thing that in all our Hindu literature that we dance, whether in or singing, bhajans, padas, Carnatic, Gujarati, whatever, Maharashtrian, Bengali, Odia, Sanskrit, it is always the female who is identified with the seeker, the bhakta, and yearning for the embrace of the Lord, whether it's Shiva, whether it's Vishnu, whether it's Narayana, Ranganatha, Kartikeya, Krishna. My question has been since then, to which I found this answer, was that is there nothing where the male is a seeker, the bhakta? Yes, they are bhaktas and bhaktas, but who are addressing the goddess directly without the interference of the god, which means in simple terms, if Vidyapati is addressing Radha, he is not calling her my Priya, my beloved. He is only addressing her as Krishna's beloved. If they are addressing Parvati, our saint poets, they are only referring to her either as mother of Ganesh or mother Jagannatha or as wife of Shiva. If it is Lakshmi, the wife of Narayana. There is no direct communication on the level of lover and beloved. And I was really disturbed by it. And that was sparked off by a very simple woman in Trichur who asked me this question.
Really?
After my Gita Govind. See, as I said, there are gurus everywhere.
Ideas,
And one day, I posed this to Lokesh Chandraji, I posed this question to Jivanda, I was reading up, Jivanda called one night at 11 p.m. and said, Eureka, I have your answer. And next morning he came with this book. It is a retranslation, bringing it back into Sanskrit, the Tantric, Buddhist Tantric Charya Padas, Charya Gita it is called, which had gone to Tibet when Padma Sambhava took Buddhism to Tibet. They were preserved there when they were lost here. And some of them came back in the early 40s, late 40s and early 50s.
Prasar Shastri and all brought them back.
Yes. And we found the answer there, because there the seeker is always a man and usually a Brahmin, youth. And the sought after, the ideal is always a woman, that too of a low caste. So it is either Dombi or it is a Shabari. Now the Shunya Mahari, which I have very often danced, Dombi also I have danced, you know domes?
Domes.
So Dombi. Shabari, Shunya Mahari, Shabaras are the oldest tribes in India, and they are in the mountains of Odisha. She is also called Shunya Mahari. Mahari is the dancer. We only know her as a dancer in the Jagannath temple, but what is the word Mahari? Now there also the research. Among the Sapta Lokas, you know, we believe there are 7 worlds. Prithvi, Bhu is the first. Bhu, Bhuva, Sva, Mahar, Jana, Tapa, Satya. Mahar is the 4th loka, the 3 lokas which we can experience, Bhu, Bhuva, Sva. The 3 others for which we have to do lot of penance. Mahar is the middle one, the 4th loka, which is where Gandharvas, Apsaras, Kinnars, etc. reside. And therefore the word Mahari, the dancer of the 4th loka, who has the privilege of dancing for the divine. So Shunya Mahari, the dancer of Shunya. Shunya is not vacuum. Shunya is the living void from which everything emanates and into which everything goes back. So the Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. So Srishti and Laya happens in the Shunya. So the title Shunya Mahari, where Shabari is the protagonist and is a dialogue between her and a Shabara youth. Now what is the symbol? The symbol is Shabara youth, the young man, is this body. And Shunya Mahari is the Prana Shakti. And the dialogue is so fantastic that the Prana Shakti is telling the Shabara youth, meaning our Atma is talking to our body. That's the dialogue. That shut up, you do too much chattering, listen to me. I am your real companion. I am your Sahaja Sundari. I wander alone in the dense forest and on the highest mountain top. And when we are together, you know, you are like a serpent coiled around me. Body is coiled around the Sushumna. So Sabaro Bhujanga Nairamani Dari. Nairamani, Nairatmata Devi. Dari meaning one who removes all the dukkhas, dharan karne wali. It's a Sanskrit word. Then the Mahasukha happens. Mahasukha in Buddhist terminology is moksha, is the eternal sthiti of Mahasukha. And I tell you, I got goose flesh. Even today, now when I talk, I get goosebumps. It is such, I mean, there can be nothing higher than this, nothing more beautiful than this, nothing more intense and deep philosophy than this. So I got my answer. So always, Utpal, question, and somewhere there is an answer. That is my philosophy of life.
But from there, you are planning to do something beyond. You are coming to Sunnapuram also.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
How
because
is that?
Shunya never remains Shunya. Na? Shunya is Purna also. Two sides of the same coin. And that is where Kabir has said it later. Our Upanishads have said it much earlier. That Shunya is like holding up a pitcher, empty pitcher to the sky. It remains empty, outside also, inside also. And Purna is like dipping that pitcher into the ocean. So inside also it's full, outside it's also full, Purna. And from there I've made a choreography, and I presented it already. It's always adding and taking out and polishing and repolishing and adding. Antah shunyo, bahi shunyo. Inside shunya, outside shunya. Shunyaha kumbham iva ambare, as if holding up to the sky. Anta purno, bahi purno. Purnaha kumbham iva arnave. Arnav is ocean. It's like dipping it into the arnav, inside water, outside water. That is Purna.
You have done some lovely poetry by Sitakanta Mahapatra, the great poet. Could you tell us which poem of his you took up and how?
Yes, because I'm glad you asked. It is not always that we revert back to the ancient old works. The contemporary poets have so much to give us. So Sitakant Babu's 3 poems I have danced to. Aradrashya. the other vision. Where Yashoda is old and she's sitting and thinking about that day, that moment when she saw little Krishna open the little mouth with all the saliva bubbles and little new teeth coming up and his rolled up tongue and the tears falling into his mouth, and in that mouth what she had seen, the entire universe. And now she's thinking, I can't even share this with anyone. All my life, all these years, I had to live with it because people will call me mad. They will say that, I've gone insane. Such a thing cannot happen. But what I saw, I cannot forget. The other one is Kubja, again from Srimad Bhagavat. And a very beautiful description of the arid Mathura, Kans Mathura. Beautiful description. Something like Delhi today. Boiling hot, and dust storms coming, and trees and everything burning up, and people also losing their minds, and everything is in the shadow of fear. And then the arrival of the two brothers, and the description of what they look like, and how the citizens are thronging to see this marvelous sight. And Kubja, who's carrying she's hunchback and very ugly, and she's the official masseuse to King Kamsa, and she's carrying all these sandalwood paste and everything. Yes. And she also waits, and she said, what is all the crowds about? Let me also see. And when she sees and she's praying, and she says, oh my God, I've never seen such beauty. May he look at me. And Krishna looks at her and looks at the bhava in her eyes, and he presses his right big toe on her right big toe, holding up her chin, and at that point she becomes straight and beautiful, and the prana, Krishna puts that prana shakti in her, which starts moving in her Ida, Pingala and Sushumna, and that becomes Kubja. Actually later on Bhagavad says that Krishna took her as his lover. And the third one is Jara, the last moment of Krishna, which is very rarely talked about or depicted in dance or painting. We know that he was shot by a hunter's arrow, mistaking his right pink sole of the foot to be the deer's mouth. And when Jara, the whole thing is a soliloquy. Jara is the hunter, and he comes to claim the prey, and he sees this, and he is lamenting. And what a lament, my God! It spans eons of the time cycle. It goes back and forth. And Jara says, my God, you who are beyond history, you who are beyond time, here, shot by the arrow of time, shot by my arrow. And maybe you would remember me as I am. Maybe you will forget, but I'll never forget you. In your new avatara, what will you be? You have always done chalana. You have always deceived all of us. If Akrura, the great Jnani, could not understand you, who am I? And what he says at the end, I mean, I'm not going, each line, each verse is so moving, but at the end, you know, it is something fantastic. Jara is saying that here, with your lotus feet, your tender feet, bloody, embracing that to my chest, my only prayer is that may you be released from your own Maya Jal by my arrow in birth after birth. Oh my God. Who can say that?
What a prayer. What a prayer. Talking about contemporary themes of Sita Kanta Mahabharata and so on, you have even done film songs and interpreted them with your classical choreography.
Yeah.
How did you hit upon that idea?
Often I thought that films also incorporate bhajans and padas and so many things, and they say the same thing, even if they are, you know, film songs. And by being film songs, they don't necessarily become vulgar or obscene. It is how you interpret them. So I wanted to also create a bridge of communication, because I saw as the years passed that Bollywood was taking over people's imaginations, and I want to enter that space. So I hit upon it, and Aruna Vasudev, she encouraged me for Cinemaya's 10th anniversary, and I composed a program. Now, for example, Yahi Madhava Yahi Keshava Mavada Kaitava Vadam, you know that Ashtapadi, Krishna, get out, you are a liar, you are this, you are that. And with that I joined in a seamless way. People didn't even know, and suddenly they sat up. Sanya Beiman Mose Chal Kiye Jaye, the song from Guide.
Okay.
The same thing. Then I brought Ramayana, our Sanskrit Ramayana, you know, Shringaram, Kshiti, Nandini, Vihan, Navaras, the 9 emotions. And each of the Sanskrit verse is either preceded or followed by a film song which brings out that emotion.
Okay.
So, for example, there is Adbhutam, where they are building the Setu, Setu Bandh, you know, the monkeys are. And my Ram, I always say, okay, what would the Adhunik Ram do? Maybe he will say this. What will he say to the monkeys? Eh bhai, zara dekh ke chalo, आगे भी नहीं पीछे भी दाएं भी नहीं बाएं भी ऊपर ही नहीं नीचे भी, don't fall in the water. And what is the philosophy of that beautiful song penned by Gopal Das Neeraj, the famous poet? That everyone, rich and poor, fat and small, big and whatever, they all have to come and go. The traffic is constant. Janma, Janmantara, nobody can escape that. And dunya is a circus. Then for Hasyam, I brought Shurpanakha. Hasyam Shurpanakha Mukhe. My Shurpanakha comes and knocks at the hut, the door, and Ram looks at her and says, Ye kachatura nar kar ke singar.
Kya baat hai.
So like that I have brought, and I keep changing also as the newer songs come, but always keeping the balance. And therefore people like it, because the minute you go ori, you lose the balance, then the message is lost. So I'm happy I started that trend also.
Neither too much of classicism nor too much of the film.
No, it is all done in classical style. I'm not doing any jhatka matka.
Okay.
It is an Odissi. It is with the Hasta Mudras, but interpreting a film song.
Okay. You had talked about young dancers being advised by you to pick up a career or be guided in their careers. That brings me to the point that in the cultural space of India, yours have been a very important voice. You have given voice to the culture, and the young dancers and young scholars and young people look up to you as a leader. This leadership role and the role model is something which is extremely important for us. How did you achieve this status, and how do people react to your role model?
Well, I think you mentioned it. I've never considered myself as a role model. But
You are. Indeed you are.
I think it is years of total dedication and commitment which comes through. A. B. I have never really worked for myself, in the sense I have never asked things for myself. I had taken up issues with ICCR, with many governments about the monies, the grants, accommodation, infrastructure, and they were all for the larger good of the art scene. So that also I think somewhere speaks for itself. And 3, my total honesty and frankness. I have never minced my words. I have never compromised on certain values, as I said earlier, principles. That also I think, whether people accept it or not. But when you have said this and not that, and you stand by it, then I have also suffered because of that. I mean, there have been retaliations, but that's okay. That is bound to be. I don't expect everyone to accept and to honor my word or my views.
Part of life.
Part of life. Sometimes it hurts, sometimes it doesn't. It's okay. But I have never deviated from my charted path. And I think that also goes down in society, because society doesn't easily accept नाच. नाच गाना बोलते हैं नॉर्थ इंडिया में, unfortunately, नृत्य संगीत. But even so, and I am very fortunate and I am grateful to our people, to India, to my nation, which have given me so much love and respect and affection. I go anywhere today, railway station, aerodromes, restaurants, walking, and there are at least half a dozen people who recognize me and they say, want a photograph, want an autograph. I mean, what more can one want? Money cannot buy you that kind of affection.
In terms of some of the events in life which have not been put up, recognized at all, you have brought them up. For instance, World Dance Day has been there for umpteen years. Nobody knew about it. You brought it out of the closet, dusted it and gave it a public space. In fact, we all remember that when you first brought out World Dance Day, it became a dancers' mela actually. All the young dancers were there.
Yeah.
This is a great idea. How did
I
you
could do that because I was then chairman of the Sangeet Natak Academy.
Okay.
And I've always felt that classical music has had an upper hand of late. Dance, yeah, it is true. Dance is somewhere in the back seat.
Okay.
Also, World Dance Day is there. Why not recognize it and why not celebrate it? Dance is all about celebration.
True.
And there were about 26 troops which participated. Then we had food stalls and everybody enjoyed themselves. I had governors of various states, Birju Maharajji and so many others coming and inaugurating. And so 2 years it happened, and now it has become
regular feature.
I'm very, very happy about it.
No, talking about dance, you did give dance some kind of a space, and it has become a centrality, in fact, in terms of a space.
Yeah.
With your efforts.
Well,
how did you achieve it?
Issues, frankness, teaching, unstinting support to anyone who comes to me for either advice or whatever, what I can do for them. If I can't do, I direct them to people who I think can do for them. A kind of a friendliness, Utpal, I don't believe in arrogance at all. Arrogance is only for weak people, in the sense that people who don't know themselves. But what is there to be arrogant about? So, from far people might think that, because I'm not very gregarious on the other hand. I don't seek company for the sake of company. I'm very happy to be with myself, to read, to think, to do whatever. But when we are with people, you give all of yourself, you laugh, and I love, oh my God, I can't stand people who don't have a sense of humor. And the friends, they all know me as a clown.
You like to do clowning.
I tell so many jokes, I crack jokes, I mime, I do anything. I'm a punster.
Okay.
But these are my private spaces.
Right.
Everything is not there for everyone.
Yeah.
Neither for you, nor, you are, I'm sure, like that. You have to keep that distance also, because we are all the time in public eye. But you need that. So, as I said,
your own space.
Yeah, people know me as somebody who is myself. I've got the greatest compliment from people like Tara Bhattacharya, Gandhiji's granddaughter, and others. They say, "But Sonal, you are so normal." And I laughed and I said, "Tara, Ben, what do you mean?" She said, "Oh, Sonal, I've met so many dancers and artists, and oh my God, but you are so normal." SOOOO maybe. And I think that's a wonderful compliment, Utpal da, when you can remain as you were meant to be. Remain a learner, remain a seeker, remain a human being, remain a grateful person.
But Sonal, you have not always been allowed to remain yourself. You had some number of hurdles in life.
Yep.
Some of the biggest hurdle was that
Yeah,
accident of yours. How did you get over that?
I think God's grace, God wanted me to continue with my mission. And the wonderful opportune moment of getting my chiropractor, Dr. Pierre Gravel, in Montreal. And he took it up as a challenge where the German surgeons had said, never dance again, she might walk normally again after 2 years, might. He took me up as a challenge case, never charged $1, treated me without operating, without cutting anything. His first thing was, after 3 weeks of x-rays and consultations with the Germans, he came and said, I was in bed with a plaster cast weighing 4 kilos, with a rucksack for my 4 broken ribs, and several wounds and all. And all I could do was to lie. The first 3 days in hospital were on rubber foam. And he looked at me for a long minute, and he was to give his verdict that day. And he said, Sonal, I'm afraid. And I started howling and crying. So he stopped. He said, Sonal, I haven't finished. And he said, Sonal, I'm afraid you will be able to dance again. And he said he wanted to give my system a kickstart. My whole psychology, my body had given up. And I used to say, give me poison. If I can't dance, I don't want to live. I don't want to live. So I'd gone white. He wanted to kickstart my system, put that willpower in me. And we worked. My God, till I used to cry in pain. But without operation, without anything, he brought me back. He used to sit with stopwatch after the first 9 months, when cast had been taken away. He had strengthened my back. 2 minutes. Remember the first day when you went to learn to dance, how old were you? 6. What did you do? Remember, do that. 2 minutes. 2 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to half an hour. Like that, he made me come up again on my feet. I remembered I cried. I could not lift for Taiya Tai. I could not lift my leg. He said, this is what you have to now once again master your body. That was, but Utpal da, it was a blessing in disguise. All that young, beautiful dancer thing went out of me. As I said, 1 minute you are at the top, next minute you are a worm. So, after I recovered and came back, Utpal da, any number of people have consulted me. I have sent them to Montreal. They've spoken with him. They asked me to go to Gangaram. They asked me to go to AIIMS. Aap haath laga dijiye, theek ho jayega. I've done all that quietly.
But there's a great lesson also for dancers and others, that after such obstacles and after such hurdles, you have been able to come back, and that kind of willpower to pursue career, to persist in terms of choices of life can be there.
I will dance again. That was the title.
My last question.
Yeah.
You have been crowned with many glories in life, any number of awards. One of these was Padma Bhushan at some stage. Could you tell us how did you get that award first of all, without any other Padma award before that?
Yeah, that is, no Padma award. And President Venkatraman, I was called up by Sri Gopal Gandhi, who was his joint secretary then, and said, President wants to meet you. Come to tea at 4 o'clock day after tomorrow, and don't be late. I was known for, because he used to call me very often. He was very fond of me, like he's been fond of other dancers, always coming to the programs. As president, he could not. So in 87, I started the cultural programs again at Rashtrapati Bhavan, which are now going on, in that little cinema theatre in the basement, and we set up the lights and curtains and everything. So he had seen Dvivarna, which I mentioned earlier, and this was much later, and he straight away asked me after coffee and vadas and all that, and said, Sonal, give me your biodata. Have you brought it? So I was I said, sir, you know me since my childhood. What do you want my biodata for? No, Gopal didn't tell you? Yeah, sir. Give it. So it was about 6, he went through that and awards, honors. And he says, you've forgotten something. I said, what, sir? You haven't mentioned your Padma award. I said, but sir, I never got it. He said, if you allow me, I want to rectify this national mistake. Utpal da coming out of the President of India, I remember I just stood up with tears flowing. So it literally came to me like that. And then later Padma Vibhushan also, in 2003, it was on the ticker tape television on 25th January. And I was taking a rehearsal of Meera, my student from Seattle, Radha's daughter, wonderful dancer, in Malviya Nagar. And my people called from home, they said, बहुत सारा टीवी सब आया इधर, देर आपको पूछ रहा है, क्या, what have I done now? I said, I have not made any controversial statement, what have I done now?
Of late.
So I said, phone dena. So he passed on the phone to one of them. I said, yes, what is it? Ma'am, you've got Padma Vibhushan, we want to come and have your bite. I said, what? That is how it happened. So it's God's grace, as I said, my Kamakhya's grace, and the biggest award I've got is Kameshwari at the great temple of Kamakhya.
If after my last question I can raise a postscript and ask you, if suddenly today at this stage of life and at this station of life, Nataraja appears before you, whom you have revered all your life, and asks you to ask for 3 boons, what will be the 3 boons you will be appealing for and praying for?
No, boons are given, no? So I'll ask the first boon to allow me to see his Ananda Tandava seated at the feet of the great goddess, who is supposed to be the Ekala Prekshika, the only one witness. But if I'm given this boon,
Rare chance.
I would sit at the feet. And second, to bring, to give the rhythm of that Tandava, Ananda Tandava, not Samhara Tandava,
No.
Ananda Tandava, to the world.
Kya baat hai.
So that the world, which is so vitiated, the rhythms have all gone unbalanced. They are all betala. Let the great God Nataraj bring it back into rhythm.
Okay.
And the third boon,
Yes.
to give me yet more human births in this land at his feet, dancing.
How nice. Thank you very much, Sonal. It has been a great experience.
na